Muito bom dia, espero que estejam bem. Antes de mais, queria agradecer a todos a presença no webinar organizado pela Hydra e pela Dassault Sistemas relacionado com a gestão avançada de produção. Este webinar terá uma duração sensivelmente de 60 minutos, no final do qual teremos depois um período para perguntas e respostas e questões que eventualmente queiram colocar. De qualquer forma, está também disponível na vossa zona digamos, do webinar, uma zona para mensagens escritas, se quiserem colocar alguma questão ou alguma dúvida durante a decorrência do mesmo, poderão também colocar a partir daí e depois responderemos a todas no final da apresentação propriamente dita. Em termos de apresentadores, estarei eu e estará o Alexandre Cotin, que é digamos, responsável pela solução PlannerOne, que é a solução que hoje vos vamos apresentar, e que fará, digamos, a apresentação do produto, sendo que esta será efetuada em inglês. Okay? Em termos de contexto geral, portanto, esta solução é uma solução integrada sobre o ERP Microsoft Dynamics NAV e que faz parte, no fundo, é um complemento para a oferta da Dynamics NAV para a área da gestão da produção. Portanto, e nesse contexto, dentro daquilo que é, digamos, uma solução integrada, apresenta-se como uma ferramenta de gestão avançada que nos permite fazer um planeamento mais detalhado daquilo que são os nossos recursos e aquilo que é, no fundo, a nossa capacidade produtiva e ter, a partir daí, toda a integração com as restantes áreas do ERP em termos de controle de custos e de controle de recursos, digamos que é algo que é sempre essencial na área industrial. Posto isto, e dando este enquadramento geral, irei passar para o Alexandre para fazer, no fundo, a apresentação da solução e, como referi, no final estamos totalmente disponíveis para algum tipo de questão que queiram colocar, sendo que durante o período da apresentação os microfones estarão desligados e depois estarão ativos para poderem intervir. Queria também reforçar que a sessão será em inglês, de qualquer forma ela depois será disponibilizada a gravação deste webinar para que possam partilhar junto às vossas equipas e eventualmente também de outros interessados. Muito obrigado a todos e bom webinar. And now I'm going to switch for English to pass to Alejandro to give us a view of PlannerOne and the Dynamics NAV integration. Alex, it's with you.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. So, as Pedro explained, we're going to do that in English because I cannot, unfortunately, perform the presentation in Portuguese. For that presentation, we will start with a quick introduction about Delmire PlannerOne, and then we will go directly through a presentation of the different functionalities of the software, and I will do that by using a demo version of the solution. After that, I will explain to you what is our approach in terms of planning and scheduling, and then I will present to you one of our reference. At the end of the session, we will perform a question and answer session. So if you have any questions, write it down in the chat panel, and we will answer that at the end of the presentation. So first of all, what is Delmire PlannerOne? So PlannerOne is an APS, an advanced planning and scheduling software for manufacturing and services. So basically, the solution is divided into two modules. There is one called Production Scheduler for manufacturing, and a second one called Resource Planner for jobs and services. So today, the session will be entirely focused on Production Scheduler. So we will talk only about the manufacturing module. It's also important to explain that PlannerOne is entirely dedicated to Microsoft Dynamics NAV. So I will here present 4 key points about that software, and those key points are common of the two modules. So the solution is entirely integrated. So we're not talking here about an interfaced solution for your ERP. We're talking about an integrated add-on dedicated for an AV with a real-time synchronization between the data from an AV and the data from PlannerOne. The solution is also accessible via web application, so we will see that during the demo. And the purpose of the solution is to cover some existing gaps that we can encounter in the basic manufacturing module of an AV. And it's also important to explain that the solution is certified for Microsoft Dynamics NAV. And right now we are certified and compatible from NAV 2013 R2 up to NAV 2018. So our tool is an entire part of the digital transformation that most of the companies are currently doing. So most of our prospect and customer were using before PlannerOne a very manual tool such as Excel, and so we were at that moment inside the lean era of the manufacturing. Today, with a solution like PlannerOne, we try to help our customer entering into the agile era of the manufacturing with an integrating tool, so completely integrated inside your information system and your ERP, and with a better way to handle potential problems that we can have in the planning and scheduling in the manufacturing sector. So, as explained, I will go directly to the functionalities of the software. First, maybe a very quick reminder, what is an APS? So most of the companies are working with 3 levels of planning. So we have first the sales and operative plan. So basically, this plan is very a high-level plan. We use it mostly to do some forecast on the big family items that we have. And we're right now with an AV, you are probably using the MPS module. So that module usually limits the calculation of the planning at an infinite capacity. So in the end, you do not take into account the real finite capacity of your machines, and it's mostly used for the replenishment strategy of your inventory. With the scheduling, so the last part of the 3 scheduling stages, with the scheduling, we really enter into the last step. So we will define precisely at what moment and inside what machine we will perform each operation. So that's really something that is not covered right now by an AV, and so we came with PlannerOne as a solution to cover these particular gaps. So what are the key points about production scheduler? So first, we're talking here about an intuitive and collaborative tool. I will show you in the demo that the solution is completely integrated inside an AV, and so if you are used to work with an AV, working with PlannerOne will result very easy. The solution also provides an optimization engine. So we will, thanks to some criteria, we will offer to the planner an automatic way to perform the scheduling of all operations. One of the most important things that I have explained in the previous slide, we will respect the constraints of your production environment. So we will respect the capacity of each machine and the different modelization that you will need in order to come with a proper planning. And the tool is also capable to perform some simulation and detailed analysis. We will show those different functionalities during the webinar. I will also try to make it interactive, and I will try to see some, to present to you some real use cases, such as how to manage an urgent order, how to manage a machine breakdown, for instance. So I will leave the PowerPoint and I will go directly inside an AV. So right now, I assume that you are familiar with that window. So we're seeing here some options from the manufacturing module of an AV. So you can see that we have added here an access to PlannerOne. So if you need to access to the software, you can access it directly from the manufacturing department inside an AV. So it's very intuitive. In case you prefer, you can also use the search bar. And here you have the different options for PlannerOne. As I explained during the introduction, we can also access via web browser. So I will now work from the Internet Explorer browser. So it's right now in Portuguese, because what I have done is that I have set up the language of my browser in Portuguese, and so automatically the software appears in the same language. So what are we seeing now? We are seeing a Gantt chart for resources. So everything I'm seeing now are data that are directly synchronized from an AV. I will explain that. So first, we will see here on the left the different columns. So we see the work center code, the machine center code, and the machine center's name. So here we see the resources that I have defined inside an AV for my production. I also see in that column the capacity of the machine, which is also a field that we read from an AV. So for instance, that resource mic has a capacity equal to 1, but some of my machines are a superior capacity. If I extend that column, I will see the exact number of the capacity. For instance, a machine with a capacity equal to 2 is capable to manage 2 operations at the same moment. We see here in the planning all operations. So those operations are coming from the different work orders that are already created inside an AV. So every time I create a new work order inside an AV, this work order is directly synchronized with the software. And so by default, when I create a new production order, the production order appears in the standby machine. The purpose of that standby machine is to host all operations that are coming from the new work orders that I'm creating before I perform the scheduling. So once I am working in that environment, there is different things I can do, but the most important one is to schedule. So in the action panel here, I have the move button that allow me to take an operation and move it to the appropriate resource. Here you can see that there is a difference of colors. So some machines are in the dark and some machines are in the light. This is because we respect the routing of the article. And so if that operation has to be performed by that machine, this is the only machine where I can schedule the operation. It's also important to see that here I have the choice between that machine and that one. Why so? Because with PlannerOne, we read the alternate machine center table. So for one operation, I am capable to define one or several machine centers that are capable to perform that operation. And of course, we will see that it can be very helpful when I am the planner and I have the choice between different machines. It can be very helpful to find different options for my planner in order to perform the scheduling. So that drag and drop operation can be done with every operation, the operation in the standby machine or the operation that are already scheduled. So if I want to postpone or move backward an operation, I can do it with the move button. And as I have explained, the purpose is to create the planning. So here I can go and plan each operation one by one with the move button. That's the first option. Before, for some customers that has a lot of operations to manage and a lot of work orders that are coming in an urgent way, it can be pretty complicated to schedule each operation one by one. So this is why the software also provides with a scheduling engine. So in that case, what I'm going to be capable to do is hit that button and automatically perform the scheduling. So what will happen is that all operations in the standby machine are going to be scheduled automatically, and the whole planning has been rescheduled entirely in order to provide the planner with the best possible planning with the different conditions that we have. When I'm talking about condition, I'm talking about availability of the machine. Of course, as you are seeing, we are working at finite capacity, but there is also many things that we need to respect. For instance, one thing that we are respecting with PlannerOne is the links between operations. If I use that filtering button and if I focus on one specific work order, I can highlight the work order in order to see the links between operations. Here, what I see is that some operations are linked with a start link, for instance, or a start end. So what we have done with PlannerOne is that we have created 6 new types of links. So instead of having only the serial and parallel links inside an NAV, we have added new links in order to better model your production processes. In case that you work with semi-finished goods and you have different work orders that are connecting between each other, PlannerOne, it's also reading that, and we can first respect the different links between the different production orders when we're performing the scheduling, and we can also highlight that network with that button. So the good thing is that PlannerOne will always respect those links. So even if you're moving an operation that is connected to another one, the software will not let you start an operation before an operation that has to be done before that one. So it will respect in any case the links between operations, as I explained. So that scheduling engine can be very useful when you have a lot of operations to schedule. But of course, if you do not want to use that options, or if you feel more comfortable by using the manual move button, you can actually only use that button. There is no obligation of using the scheduling engine. You can just like use the move button for most of your job as a planner. And of course, when you need it, you can be helped by that scheduling engine. It's also very important to note that this scheduling engine is not one same configuration for all of our customers. The scheduling engine is highly customizable, so each customer of PlannerOne has a specific configuration for his scheduling engine in order to match his needs. If the customer priority is, for instance, I don't know, the respect of the delay, in that case, we will focus the scheduling engine on that. If the focus is to reduce the setup times, the scheduling engine will also focus on that. Talking about setup times, PlannerOne is also reading a new field called item parameters, where we can define a matrix for the different setup times. So here I'm gonna show you an example. When I am working in my resource gain chart, I am capable to define the colors of the operation. So right now, what I'm seeing is a color per delay or advance, meaning that right now the operation in orange are scheduled to be quite late. In yellow, the operations are scheduled to be late. In red, the operations are already late because the due date is in the past. But when the operation is in green or dark green, it means that at the moment, the work order is scheduled to be done on time, so before the due date. So that can be very helpful. But what I'm trying to see right now is a setup time calculation. So I have set up the color of each operation per item, which means that if two operations has the same color, they are with this for the same item. So I'm going to try to zoom in order to see some setup times calculation. So here the good thing is that in my indicators here to the right, I have the possibility to see every details first from the work order. So in that case, here I can use that link in order to directly open the work order window inside an NAV, and I can see that that product is supposed to be white. That's a good example of parameters because the setup times can vary for certain operations when I'm moving from a color to another. Right now, the setup times is 20 minutes. So when I am changing the color, what could happen in that case? If I am moving from, in that case, a black item to a white one, sorry, you will see that the setup time will be 2 hours instead of 20 minutes when I'm moving from a black one to a black one. And those setup times are defined inside an NAV in a specific table that we call item parameters. And so if we unzoom, you see that the scheduling engine by default has gathered all operations for products of the same color in order to minimize setup times. So it's very a good way to increase our production performances And for some customer, it's very a key issue, the management of the setup times. Okay, so there is also an important thing to explain. PlannerOne is completely integrated and synchronized with NAV, and there is an option here which is called publish. So what I'm doing as a planner is that I'm going to try to build the best possible planning for my production. But before I perform the publishing, nothing is transmitted inside an AV. Once I'm satisfied with my planning, I need to publish in order to do two things. First, I will send back to an AV all the data regarding my planning, and I will also provide my other users with a non-modifiable version of the planning. So once I have published the planning, there is two other profiles of user inside PlannerOne, which are the viewer that can view the last published planning, and the collaborator that can view and comment operation on the last published planning. So if a collaborator add a comment and he recommends the planner to modify the planning for any reason, then the planner will be capable to read the comments, make the modification inside the planning, and then publish again. So this is the workflow, and the comment can also be added by the planner for the viewer and the collaborator to read. You can add some tags and some messages. So right now what we have seen is, let's say, the day-to-day of the planner. So, okay, I have some new work orders. I need to schedule those work orders. It can be complicated because I can have a lot of them. I can also have a lot of constraint and links to respect. So in that specific case, PlannerOne is quite helpful because it helps the planner respecting all of those constraints. But of course, sometimes the job of the planner is not that easy and some problems can happen. So one of the frequent one would be a machine breakdown. In that case, what PlannerOne offers is a set of functionalities such as the exceptions in the calendar. So what I can do if a machine, for instance, is broken, is that I can add inside the calendar an exception. So I'm going to say that machine will be closed until the end of the week because of the breakdown. So that was not planned, and it's actually a problem because it will create delay in my production. So if I add this exception in the calendar, by default, all operation will be postponed to the right. So that's a normal way to react, but that may not be the optimum way of doing it. Maybe it's more interesting to postpone those two operations and reschedule those operations at the beginning of that session now. So how do I know if it's more interesting to place that operation here or to let it for next week? Well, it can be complicated for the planner to know it by heart. And so what he has to do is go to the work order, see the due dates, and so on. But of course, here we have another option. When you add that exception in the planning, you can reuse the scheduling engine, and the scheduling engine will make the decision for you. So in that case, it may reschedule. You see, it has just reshuffled everything. So it has suggested a new planning based on that new exception that I have just added. In the same way, I can add an exception in order to open a machine that is supposed to be closed. Right now, what I'm seeing is that in light, I'm seeing the open hours of the machine. In gray, I'm seeing the closed hours. If I stop hiding the non-working period, I'm going to see that some machines are closed during the weekend and they are also closed during the night. So what I can do in that case is create an exception in order to open a machine, because maybe we are having more delays than we should have, and so we need to open the machine in order to be on time. So that's a possibility, but we will not do an example of that. The thing that you may be facing if you're a planner is also that for any reason an operation may not be able to start at the moment that you planned it. because the raw material is not available, or one tool is missing, or one tool that was supposed to be available in the end is not. Many things can happen, and so at some point you will have to postpone operation in the time. So you can use that button in order to define the earlier start date of an operation. In that case, you may move an operation in the next day, and at that moment that orange arrow would appear, and that means that we have defined an earlier start date. So, meaning that we cannot start that operation before because, well, of any reason. Could be, for instance, a problem in that case of delivery, and you can add a tag on the operation. So if you're several planners to work, or if you want your collaborators to see that justification in the planning, you may add some comments for them. This is why we say that PlannerOne is also, in the end, collaborative tool, and it will improve the communication in the team thanks to those comments and the possibility to publish the planning. So PlannerOne does not provide only that view. It will provide also several other graphical. In that case, we have the work order Gantt chart. So that view makes you able to see each work orders one by one, and you can see in a very visual way the due date tagged with the red arrow here and the earlier start date in green. So right now we're seeing the operation with the delay code. So the green operation are scheduled to be on time. Here it makes sense. You see that the last operation ends before due date, but sometimes it is scheduled to be late. Here you see that with the current planning, this work order will be late of approximately 2 days. So that view is quite interesting if you want to manage the planning per work order. We also have another view, which is called the load chart. So that view is has been built to help you analyze your performances, and one of the main use case for that view is the identification of bottlenecks. You may have some bottlenecks in your production, but you're not sure how important is the bottleneck, or what machines precisely inside a work center are creating that bottlenecks. So you need a detailed a detailed analysis with numbers in order to potentially calculate some return on investment if you want to invest on a new machine. So you will use that chart in order to help you detecting that. So in that case, you see that some machines are loaded all the time at 100%. So in that case, it's probably a bottleneck. On the other hand, some machines are not that charged, so you may rethink some of your production processes in order to improve that load on some machines. In the resource Gantt chart, in the indicators panel, we also provide with some key performance indicators. So here you have some indicators, and you may want to perform some simulations. In that case, if you base your analysis on the load chart, if you use the indicators and panel for the key performance indicators, you will be capable, for instance, to simulate, I don't know, the fact that you're duplicating a capacity in a machine. So you will see how it will impact the load, and you will also see how it will impact the key performance indicators. We have another view, which is called the resource sequence. So in that case, what we see is that for each resource that you would select here, you would have a listing of each operation that the machine is supposed to perform in the coming days. So what you can do is have a look at it, and you can also, if you want, export that list to Excel if you want to perform some new analysis on some specific reporting that requires an Excel analysis. So when you click on that plus button, you would have here the different view. The last one that we haven't seen yet is the custom Gantt chart. So as the name indicates, the custom Gantt chart is a diagram that you will be able to personalize. So here you have to enter the first entry and the second entry. So I have done an example here with the work order customer name and the work order delay. So that custom Gantt chart has been created before, and what I have here are the name of my customer, and when I display one customer, I see all work orders related to that specific customer, and I see the delay. So if my customer calls me and says, hey, what about those work orders? Will I receive it on time? And in that case, I just have to display that, and I'm going to say, okay, so that one, the work order number 101004 is going to be on time. There is one who's going to be a little bit delayed, but two are going to have 3 or 5 days of delays. So you need to be able to quickly anticipate and give your customer that information. So right now we have seen the most important capacity for the software. So I will come back to the PowerPoint in order to do a quick sum up of what we saw. So as a summary, so we have seen the planning capacity. So when the planner needs to perform the scheduling of each operation, he can or do it manually or use the scheduling engine. The visual display is quite interesting and is not provided inside an AV in the manufacturing module. So just the fact of having a visual display of your planning is quite an advantage when it comes to perform the scheduling and manage the production. And as I said, very important point, we respect all capacities and links. So in any case, when you create the planning with PlannerOne, you know that it represents something that makes sense with your production environment. And then the product is quite scalable. If you have any issues, you have different options such as the exception or the visual management of the operation colors. If you need to do quick changes and make quick decisions, you are capable with PlannerOne to handle quite a large number of operations and machine. And even if you have a lot of operations to plan every day, thanks to the scheduling engine, it's not complicated. And the fact that the scheduling engine is configurable makes it quite interesting, because no matter what are your needs and requirements in terms of planning and scheduling, we will find a way to configure the scheduling engine in order to fit your needs. And at last, the tool is quite collaborative. As we saw, you can share the published planning with other users of PlannerOne, and of course, several planners can work on different planning if needed. We can set up some planning sectors in order to split the different sectors of your company if you need to have several planning and several planners working independently on each planning. So all of those functionalities gives our customer quite a good advantage. We see some strong financial return on investment with PlannerOne, and we also see an important thing, which is the improvement of the on-time delivery ratio. So by default, by improving the on-time delivery ratio, you improve your customer satisfaction by being able to respect the due date that you communicate to them, or in case you cannot do it, be able to see it in advance and anticipate better the communication with your customer. So I'm just gonna take 3 minutes to sum up something. So I have insisted quite a lot about the visual planning aspect and the advanced scheduling. So in that case, I'm going to explain briefly what I'm talking about. So the visual planning is very about the move button. For some customer, it's necessary to remain in charge of the move of each operation. Some customer does not need or does not want a scheduling engine to make the decision instead of the planner. So in that case, for some project-based manufacturing customer, it makes a lot of sense, because everything is very specific for each customer. The operations are not always the same, and they will have a lot of specific elements to take into consideration. So in that case, because the processes are always monolines order, and the machine are quite simple to manage, the visual planning and the manual scheduling makes a lot of sense. And PlannerOne does that thanks to the move button and thanks to the different visual aspects that you can modify in the planning. And for other customers, which are more in a make to stock or make to order configuration, it's going to be different because the operations are going to be always the same. They're going to have quite a lot of operations to manage. It's often a multi-level BOM or multi-line orders, so it's more complicated to manage those orders without having some help from the planning system. So in that case, the advanced scheduling and what I'm saying by that is the use of the optimization engine of PlannerOne makes a lot of sense. So my conclusion for that is, why choose? PlannerOne does both things. If you are more fit to the visual planning management, or if you're more a fit for the scheduling and the advanced scheduling of PlannerOne, well, you can decide which one you want to use. But PlannerOne covers both configurations. So no matter what is your size or what are your processes, PlannerOne should be a fit for you. And in that list, you can see that the only requirements that we ask is that you have an AV as a ERP system. And even for customers that may need the advanced scheduling, sometimes it can be a very huge step to take forward, because you have been working all the time with very manual tools, and today you need to add a new software with specific functionality, and it will make decisions on your behalf. So some customers may not feel confident about it. So what they would do is that they would use a step-by-step approach. First, they would just use the visual planning functionalities in order to get familiar with those basic functionalities, which means the display of the Gantt chart and the manual scheduling of each operation. Then step by step, they would get more familiar with the enhanced visual planning functionalities, such as the dynamic setup time calculation that we have seen during the demo, such as the use of alternative resources, as we have seen as well in the demo. And at last, when they feel confident, we can realize the configuration of the scheduling engine and start using the scheduling button in order to use both manual and automatic scheduling capacities. So I'm gonna talk very briefly about a reference that we have. So first, it's important to mention that we can work with, as I said, most of the company sizes and manufacturing configuration type, but we also work with many industries. So here you have a list of the industries where we have our customers. So it's quite varied, and we have recently performed one very interesting case study with a Dutch customer. So that customer is IGS. So if you want more details, you can see on the internet a complete case study about that customer and how he uses PlannerOne and why he is using PlannerOne. But in that case, that customer is a leading maker of molds for healthcare. So there is a real challenge here about the high precision of the molds, because it's something extremely specific for the mostly for the optics sectors. And so that customer is using both our modules. So he's using the resource planner modules for the engineering phases, because of course almost every project is a design to order project. But in the end, he really needs help in order to manage his resourcing in the production environment. And thanks to Production Scheduler, he has been capable to reduce by 15% the delays in his deliveries. So that's been quite a success for that customer, where the sector is quite challenging. And thanks also to the integration between PlannerOne and the NAV, what that customer has done is that they have a machine that is directly reading the start date of some operations inside the NAV. And those start dates are actually filled by PlannerOne. So when the planner publishes the planning, the dates are automatically updated inside the NAV, and the new 5-axis robot milling machine that they have purchased is capable to read those instructions directly from a NAV, and so basically from PlannerOne in that case. So Right now, we are arriving to the end of the demo and the presentation. So as I have explained at the beginning, and as Pedro have said, we will take time to answer your questions. So if you have any, please use the chat panel in order to ask the question to us, and we will try to answer. Okay, so I think I have one question right now. Yeah, one question in the chat. Is PlannerOne compatible with Business Central? That's a very good question, and that's quite important to talk about it. Right now, our development team is about to release the version for PlannerOne for Business Central on premise. So it's quite important, as you know, and right now, so I think we should have that version available for the first quarter of 2019, so in a couple of months. And we are still working on the on-cloud version development, which will probably arrive later. So I do not have any commit right now in terms of release date, but it will happen as we always follow Microsoft. Microsoft new developments. We will at some point be compatible as well with Business Central and Cloud. Is there any other question here? So I see another question. Can I have a trial version of PlannerOne? So we do not let our customer use a trial version directly, but what you can do is work with your partner, Hydra, which has a license for developments, and so he can show you the product and maybe do some testing with you. And otherwise, you can also look at some demos and case studies that we provide on our website. All right. Is there any other question? Please use the chat if you want to ask anything. All right. So I'm gonna, I don't know, Pedro. If there is no more questions, maybe we can.
Yes, I don't think so. Nevertheless, if anybody else has any question after this session, we will share the contacts, and the session will be available to all of the participants. Okay. Thank you very much, Alex, for your time. Now I will switch for Portuguese, okay, to end the session again.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado a todos os que estiveram presentes e de qualquer forma, como referi, o webinar foi gravado e depois ser-vos disponibilizado para eventual partilha, e alguma dúvida ou questão, têm sempre disponíveis os nossos contactos para vos podermos esclarecer sobre a relevância desta plataforma do PlannerOne, integrada naturalmente com o ERP Microsoft Dynamics NAV. Muito obrigado a todos pela presença. Thank you, Alex. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Bye.